Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And welcome to another edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen. It's February 2nd. Here we are inside the Juice Box. A lot to get through today. We will be discussing the Royal Rumble fallout. We'll be discussing, future stuff with the Juice Box here coming up the next couple of weeks. We're just going to be talking a lot about a lot of stuff, touching on a lot of topics this week in abroad. As we're on the road to WrestleMania now. Royal Rumble was a fun PLE. It's normally the most fun outside of WrestleMania, I would wager. Maybe SummerSlam's close, as they branded it as the biggest party of the summer. But I would wager that Royal Rumble is, Michael Cole said it's his favorite PLE of the year. So, that's saying a lot considering WrestleMania is the be-all, end-all for a lot of WWE fans and people alike. First and foremost, let's get the other normal stuff out of the way. You can follow me on Twitter, Juicy Steen, at Juicy Steen. You can follow me on Instagram, at Juicy Wrestling Closet. Additionally, you can find the Juice Box on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, juicysteen.podbean.com. And as of today, you can now listen to the Juice Box on Spotify. So, if you listen to music on Spotify, you don't listen to it on Apple Music, and you want to listen to your podcast through Spotify, and you can now find the Juice Box on Spotify. So there's another outlet for you. So I know, a few people have reached out saying that Spotify is something that they do use, and you prefer it to be on there. So there you have it. Now you can listen to it on there as well. So the Juice Box is covering multiple platforms as we get closer to WrestleMania, getting the reach out there. Additionally, I would like to thank everybody who listened last week to both the Triple Threat Theater episode featuring Donnie and Josh, as we discussed a few topics as we normally do. The return of Triple Threat Theater, always one of my favorite, segments or series that I have of episodes. We got the SIP series, we got Triple Threat Theater, the prediction shows. And then your normal regular Juice Box as you're getting today. But for Triple Threat Theater, it had been a while since we had an episode of that, so it was nice to get back in with a Triple Threat Theater 3, as it were. And I can report to you that before WrestleMania, I can confirm that there will be a Triple Threat Theater 4 that will be all, WrestleMania themed. We're still working out the details, working on some, exact topics that we want to pinpoint and come up with some research for, but the guys are very excited to do it again, and I'm looking forward to pushing Triple Threat Theater 4 out there to everybody before WrestleMania. I'm hoping for a lot of interesting things come WrestleMania time, leading up to the big event, and then of course the event itself. When we get closer to that, I will discuss more of what I'm referring to, but things are still up in the air. We're still kind of figuring things out as we are here a couple of days into February. What is this, Rue? That's for you, Josh Eisenberg. But speaking of Josh Eisenberg, I'd like to thank him. I'd like to thank Justin LaBar, of course, for last week's prediction show for the Royal Rumble. A great turnout, I felt, listener-wise for that show, and great feedback that I've gotten. It was nice to talk with Josh and Justin, as we always used to do every single week for Chair Shot Reality. It was a great reconnecting of meeting of the minds, if you were, between the three of us. Really enjoyed, back and forth predictions. We had a fun banter with Natalia, which we will dive into. Shout out to Josh, who might be onto something with Jade Cargill here, so I might be eating crow come WrestleMania time. But so thanks for... honestly, the most listened week in the Juice Box's history. Combined Triple Threat Theater and the prediction show, we had the most listeners this week than any other week for the Juice Box. So I'd like to thank everybody who was out there who listened to the show. And if you decide to continue to listen to the show, thank you. You can drop a review on Apple Podcasts. That would really be helpful. Drop a review anywhere you do listen to the show. That would really help me out. You can, message me, DM me on Instagram or on Twitter, or just shoot me a tweet and, say what you like, you don't like about the show, and we can go from there. I just like talking to the fans of pro wrestling in general. Like I say, almost every week I feel like now, because we discuss kind of heavier, deeper topics. This episode, but every episode, this show is for the fans by a fan. So the fans are what is most important outside of the stuff that we discuss each and every week here in the Juice Box. So really appreciate all the listenership this past week. Hopefully we can continue a little bit of that going forward. I know the prediction shows always garner more listeners and ears. Same with Triple Threat Theater. Triple Threat Theater has been one of the stalwarts to this program. So, a pretty nice, perfect storm, as it were, having all those things happening at once. So, great week. We're in a new week, though. We got a lot to cover. We're going to go over the Royal Rumble, of course, transitioning into the Raw of it all. As you know, the show comes out on Friday, so we will not have anything on SmackDown. Cody Rhodes will be on SmackDown. Who knows what he'll be saying? He said a lot. He didn't really say. Seth Rollins said a lot on Monday, but Cody has a lot to think about. And he did say, I will think about it. So we'll see what happens there. Let's get into it. I don't think there's any other housekeeping here to maintain. Let's get into the Royal Rumble recap. Wow. So this was a great, great weekend. I thought the first half of the show I thought was really good. I thought the back half, it wasn't that it wasn't good. It was just the men's Royal Rumble ended, and I thought the women's Rumble was by far better. Not to say that the men's Rumble wasn't great, but it was just tough. With everything how it went and who was there. What's really crazy is that in both Rumbles, I want to say, now I'm looking through the list of the talent that was involved in both. There were not any legends at all. Excuse me. In either Royal Rumble match. There were some returns. There were some surprises. Yet, none of them were legends. At least, legends that had not been in wrestling, like a Trish or a Lita, or The Rock or DDP or, Kevin Nash, any of those legends back on the men's side either. So the women's Rumble, let's get into it. First of all, Natalya enters first. Shout out to Josh Eisenberg. She did get eliminated by Tegan Nox, but she was in there for 20 minutes and 57 seconds. Unfortunately, Nia Jax, who didn't last as long as Natalya, she lasted 20 minutes and 15 seconds, so Natalya lasted a little longer than Nia Jax. However, Nia Jax was a focal point of the match as we got to the Jade Cargill of it all. Jade coming in at number 28, unaffiliated with any rosters as of this point, not NXT, not Raw, not SmackDown, and wow, she did a lot. She eliminated Naomi, who returned, not a part of TNA or anything, which is interesting. She's not really there yet. Nia Jax got eliminated by Jade Cargill. Becky Lynch got eliminated by Naomi and Jade Cargill, which was Jade Cargill looked fantastic. She looked the part. She came out to a huge ovation. She really just had the kids say, an aura about her that is really undeniable. You could tell that she had that in AEW, but it has not been fleshed out yet. You haven't seen the full potential of a Jade Cargill yet, at least in my opinion. But as time goes on, we're gonna see that unfold. We knew she was gonna get training and she was gonna get better in the ring. She's green. She's learning. She's only had quote squash matches and what have you, but she gets in here and she looks like a badass. She tosses Nia Jax out. She looks amazing out there. She's super strong, super jacked, a specimen, if you will, and really put a hurting on some of the women in the women's Royal Rumble match. And as of this moment, I got to give it to Josh Eisenberg. I think you're going to see Jade Cargill versus Nia Jax. I think you might see that at WrestleMania. Now, the key here is in between Elimination Chamber. I think Nia Jax will want to get involved with someone, at Elimination Chamber, whether that's for a title or not, I'm not sure. But to me, I think Nia Jax gets involved maybe against Rhea Ripley. Maybe there's a 6-woman Elimination Chamber match. But I think either way, I think Jade Cargill potentially gets involved and says, "Look, I'm here to show who really, is going to squash people in WWE, and it's going to be me," which I'm here for. I'm still apprehensive to how the match will go. I thought it was a great moment, great spot in the Rumble, but that's all that was supposed to be. You put both of them in the ring. I'm not saying that they can't get it done. I'm just nervous and hoping that they do, and hoping that everything goes smooth. Newer wrestler, big spotlight. I'm sure she can handle it. Nia Jax has been put in a lot of spotlights before. Some good, some not so good, but I think they could pull it out if done properly, and I do trust both of them. I just think that's a huge spot to put her in for Jade, and to be fair, if she gets that spot like Josh had posited, I think she'll step up to the plate, and I think she'll do well. So, maybe I won't get that Natalya Jade Cargill match first, but maybe eventually, We'll see. Some other interesting things. Like I said, Naomi was a part of it. Jordynne Grace, who TNA Knockouts champion. It's a couple years now in a row where the TNA Knockouts champion has been featured, but it wasn't Mickie James, who was a former WWE Women's Champion or Divas Champion. It was Jordynne Grace, who's never stepped foot in a WWE ring. And she looked great. She looked like, again, specimen. She went 19 minutes and 10 seconds, which by my calculations, let's see, she was the 10th longest duration in the Royal Rumble for the women. And she got eliminated by Bianca Belair, but not just by Bianca Belair. She got picked up in the air and got the KOD on the apron, and that's how Jordynne Grace got eliminated. Now, she didn't eliminate anybody, but she got eliminated by Bianca Belair. So if you're going to get eliminated by someone, make sure it's Bianca Belair. And Bianca went so long in the match. She went 47 minutes and 46 seconds, and she got eliminated by the eventual winner, Bayley, who I predicted last week. I do believe Josh and Justin predicted Becky Lynch, but I foresee her having a match at Mania, regardless of winning the Royal Rumble, potentially for a world title. But yeah, I predicted Bayley. This Io Sky thing seems to me that that's what they're going for, whether it's a triple threat or just a one-on-one between the two. I just think that Bayley is going to turn face as we get to WrestleMania, if not at WrestleMania, and will win that women's championship. Other little insight there, I want to say, let's see, Roxanne Perez and Tiffany Stratton, both from NXT, were also in the match, which was good to see. So, Liv Morgan also made a return. So overall, I really enjoyed the Women's Royal Rumble. I thought, as the Women's Royal Rumble, I thought it was the best one that it has been done so far. I think 2018 they did it? I want to say. I'm not sure. Let's see. I want to make sure that because it has only been around for so long. I'm going to look at the stats right here. Yeah, so there's only been seven Royal Rumbles for the women. It started, 2018, where Asuka won, but Ronda Rousey came out. The following year, Becky won, Charlotte, then Bianca, then Ronda, then Rhea, then Bayley. So we've had 7 women's Royal Rumbles, 7 different winners. Cannot say the same about the men's, because the men's Royal Rumble, as we will discuss, got their back-to-back winner. So we'll touch on that in a little bit. But I thought the Women's Royal Rumble was a really solid match, and it couldn't have gone any better to me. After that, we did get the the Fatal 4-Way for the Undisputed Universal Championship. Randy Orton, AJ Styles, LA Knight versus Roman Reigns. Spoiler alert, Roman Reigns wins the match. And wow. It was interesting. Everybody in this match looks jacked. I don't know if there's a less than policy going on right now, but everybody just looks chiseled. SmackDown's on fire. But Roman Reigns, as I mentioned, gets the win here. And he's supposed to be on SmackDown tonight, so we will see what they really do. I don't know. We had another interference. Solo Sikoa interfered again. This is where we could definitely get into a realm of The Rock. If we do get this Cody Roman match, I think if Solo Sikoa is going to be the heater for Roman, I don't see why The Rock couldn't somehow make an appearance and prevent Solo from getting that interference in on Cody like he did last year. I think if anything, they might redo that spot. Hits a couple crossroads. Maybe here's Solo. I don't know. We're getting very in the weeds. We're so close to Chamber, let alone Mania. So really don't know what they're going to pull off, but I have faith in that. But we're not even there. So Roman wins. He hits the spear on AJ Styles. He gets the win. But yeah, the Solo thing. Maybe we get Solo and Randy Orton at Chamber. I don't know. I know Drew Badalla, Ticket Drew, first name Ticket, last name Drew, on Twitter, he mentioned that he might want to see Orton and Solo at Mania, which is a waste for Randy Orton. Solo Sikoa beat John Cena in Saudi Arabia, and I think that match only happened because it was in Saudi Arabia, and Solo got the win, and that should have been it. I don't think him and Orton should have a match, especially at Mania. Maybe at Chamber, sure, and that it makes sense. We'll see. Maybe they'll have a match on SmackDown or something, but not for WrestleMania. I think Orton should be featured in a higher level position than a Solo Sikoa match, and that's not against Solo Sikoa in any way. It's just that Solo Sikoa is not at the, he beat Cena again at Saudi Arabia, but he didn't. He hasn't done much else. He has had very few matches overall to where I feel like it's worth having something like that. So we'll see. But Roman gets the win, retains the title, like I said, and we'll see what happens later tonight on SmackDown. But additionally, let's go into the other SmackDown match here. Logan Paul defeats Kevin Owens by DQ. This was a fun match, and quite honestly, I thought the finish of this match was incredible. Now, as a fan of wrestling for over 30 years, I would like to say that I don't know how many times a referee, especially in WWE, has been competent enough to see interference, to see brass knucks, to see any foreign object, and catch someone in the act. I don't know how many times I've really seen that, because in fact, the trope is they never see it, Not in this case. So Logan Paul has the brass knucks. He's going to go use them, and he doesn't. He doesn't get to use them. In fact, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, gave them to Paul. Gives the brass knucks to Paul, but KO got him, hits Paul. He 1, 2, and the referee, as he's counting 3 and coming down, looks and catches the hand that's hooking the leg in the camera. So live, I'm sure it was confusing as hell. But on TV, the camera was looking right down the barrel of the hooked leg of Paul from Owens, where you could see the knuckles with the brass knuckles right on the knuckle, and it was right in view of the referee looking right at it. I believe it was Ryan Tran who was the referee. He saw it, and it was perfectly framed. I don't know if Kevin Dunn could have pulled that off, but no. He sees it. He immediately says it. He goes, "No, you're disqualification." And Owens pissed and put Paul through the announcer's table. Overall, a pretty nothing match outside of the finish. I enjoyed the finish more than anything. Not saying it was a bad match. It was just your standard Logan Paul, chaos match. But I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. Will he have a defense at Chamber? I'm not sure. I still think the idea will be to give, not give the title to LA Knight, but I think LA Knight should be winning the U.S. title at WrestleMania. I think that's the perfect utilization of Logan Paul to get to WrestleMania as champion, put it over as he's champion. And it's also, important to get the title off him to someone who can move forward throughout the year as champion. And Logan Paul can, go away for a bit and come back for a SummerSlam, or something. And in that time, I think LA Knight is the guy. Well, that's the thing. So Logan Paul, if you want that to happen, whoever takes the title off Logan Paul should be someone well worth it and can hold it and move forward with it. And I definitely think that LA Knight is the guy for that. Now, whether it's LA Knight one-on-one match against Paul, I don't know how they get there. So to me, and I've seen this suggested on social media, so I'm not going to just lift it. Many people can have the same opinion. There's only so many unique opinions out there, especially on social media these days. But I would say let's do a multi-man ladder match. Put LA Knight, put Logan Paul, put Kevin Owens, put Theory, Grayson Waller. You could put a solid 6 to 7 guys in a ladder match. Hell, maybe 8 in a ladder match. Showcase a ladder match at WrestleMania. You got 2 nights to do it. Why not? And you get a lot of crazy spots. You get LA Knight getting his big moments. I like the idea, and I hope that they follow through with something like that. And you get a couple more guys on the WrestleMania card. It would be good for everybody. So we'll see if that's where they go. Main event, though, Royal Rumble match. This was fun until after the fact. And then it, on Raw, and then it became not fun anymore. We'll get to it. Started off with Jimmy and Jey Uso as number 1 and number 2. Jey coming in at number 1 and Jimmy following, similar to Demolition in, I believe, 1989, if not 90. I'm not sure. Someone correct me on that. But that was fun. Andrade returns to WWE at first time since March of 2021. Came in at number 4. We had Carmelo Hayes coming in. I'm looking at the rosters here. Karrion Kross got an elimination. We saw Carlito in a Rumble for the first time in a long time. Kofi Kingston kind of got ceremoniously eliminated pretty quickly. As well. Arguably my favorite part of this, and here's an underrated portion. So let's get into a couple of other stats here. So Andrade unaffiliated. Omos returned. I'll tell you who eliminated him in a second. Pat McAfee returned and then eliminated himself because Omos was in there. However, which I thought was a terrible waste of a spot. Like I did. Pat McAfee's great, but it was a waste of a spot. That being said, he shows up on Monday Night Raw. Him and Cole will be doing Monday Night Raw for the foreseeable future. It has been reported that Kevin Patrick has been released by WWE. Hopefully he does well in all his future endeavors. I know there's been a lot of fans critical of his exasperation, or just the way he speaks is not your traditional WWE way of going about it. Because he called soccer, he just did other stuff, and this just wasn't his mainstay. It reminded me of, oh my God, what was the guy's name during the pandemic? I'm trying to think of, let's see here. Got it right here. Is it... the hell's his name? Because I remember it was such a random... it wasn't him either. Oh, man. Man, maybe I don't know why it's not even... No, unless he's under there as former... Let's see, because Dio Madden, I remember Dio Madden was on there for a bit. I remember Vic Joseph was on there for a bit. Adnan Virk was on there for a bit. I'm trying to see the... Where was it at here? Oh, this is what a segment this is. Me just diving through the random people on Raw. I don't know. I cannot find this guy. This guy he was there so briefly. I think was it 2019? Let's see. Okay, here we go. Let's get into it. Okay, it was Jimmy Smith. Wow, Jimmy Smith. I knew it was a very generic sounding name, unfortunately. That was in 2021. Wow. I thought it was earlier than that, but Jimmy Smith was a very random guy that they had, lo and behold. Pat McAfee is now on Raw. But Jimmy Smith did okay, even though, like, Kevin Patrick, that's what I was referring to, sorry. That it was a waste of 5 minutes looking up who Jimmy Smith was. But, he didn't come from a wrestling background necessarily, and Kevin Patrick didn't either. And it just, it wasn't traditional. It wasn't what they were, great at, and it just didn't work to an extent that I feel, they wanted to hold him for longer, and they got rid of him. So Kevin Patrick's gone, and now we get Pat McAfee and Michael Cole for the foreseeable future on Monday Night Raw. So we'll see what's happening with that. But anyway, so I thought that was a wasted spot. However, what wasn't a waste was Braun Breaker coming out in number 20, eliminating, get this, Finn Balor, Omos, Jimmy Uso, and Ivar. That's right, 4 eliminations for Braun Breaker, who was eliminated by Dirty Dom Mysterio. So I'm sure they could have a fun match, maybe at the Elimination Chamber or something. Maybe WrestleMania, who knows? But Braun Breaker looked like a beast. He speared a lot of guys in that ring. He looked fantastic. He was only in the ring for 5 minutes and 19 seconds and eliminated 4 guys. Cody Rhodes, who, spoilers, won the Royal Rumble, spent 43 minutes and 21 seconds in the match, won the match, also eliminated 4 guys. So Braun Breaker, in an eighth of the time that Cody was in the match, eliminated the same amount of people. Braun Breaker is going to be a menace. I'm hoping maybe him and Gunther have a spot, because let's be real, we're not going to get into the nitty gritty, of course, because that's really not what this show is. And there's plenty of other people across the board that are doing great coverage on the entire Vince McMahon lawsuit saga, as it were. I will comment on certain things on social media, but as for this show, really don't have a need to discuss it at length unless it really, unless things really change. This is not a breaking news show. This is not a majority outside the ring show, and I just don't have enough time to delve into it as much as I know other people do. So it's not that I'm not avoiding the topic. It's a very disturbing issue, and it will be taken care of as time moves forward. But lo and behold, Vince McMahon out at WWE. He won't be back at all. And in regards to the Brock Lesnar of it all, it seems like he also might not be with WWE for a very, very long time. So I believe, and it's the belief of a lot of people out there, that Braun Breaker took the Lesnar spot, and damn it, he did great. I thought he did great. He's the son of Rick. He sounds like Scott, and he wrestles like both Steiners. So it's amazing. The gear was great. The look is great. The intensity is immense. I love Braun Breaker. I'm looking forward to what he's got cooking, maybe on the main roster. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Him, Carmelo Hayes, Trick Williams, maybe they're on SmackDown tonight. I don't know, but I'd like to see it. Give me Braun Breaker in an Elimination Chamber match, spearing someone through a pod right now. That's what I want. So give me what I want. But yeah, so anyway, the finish, Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. This is wild. This is really, really wild. The final four to this match was Drew McIntyre, Gunther, CM Punk, and Cody Rhodes. Anybody could have predicted it. But Drew got eliminated by Punk, and then Gunther and Punk got eliminated by Rhodes. And Cody Rhodes is your 2024 Royal Rumble winner. So now he is only one of, I believe, 4. Am I correct here? 4 men to go back to back with the Royal Rumble win. So he is, there's only 10 men who have won the Rumble twice. Steve Austin, who is the only man to have won it 3 times. Hulk Hogan, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Brock Lesnar, Batista, John Cena, Randy Orton, Edge, and Cody Rhodes all have now won it twice. Steve Austin, Hogan, Shawn Michaels, and Cody Rhodes have now won it back to back. So that's rarefied air. And it additionally gives number 15 its first ever Royal Rumble win, which is also pretty intriguing as well, at least to me. I always find how interesting certain numbers are left out. I know there's a few numbers still that have never even won. There was a number, in the 2011 Rumble where there was 40 men, the number 38 was the winner. So that one had a number past 30. So nothing under 30 even won that one. And then the Greatest Royal Rumble where there was 50 competitors, number 41 was victorious. So 2 numbers in matches that had over 30 and they weren't under 30 of the entrant number. So there's plenty of numbers still not utilized. There was really no crazy length of time for a wrestler in a Royal Rumble for the men. For the women, I do want to say Bayley has the longest duration. She was in there for an hour and 3 minutes and 3 seconds. Naomi was in for an hour, 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And that outlasted Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, who were in almost the entire thing last year. So Bayley setting the record for longest time in a women's Royal Rumble. So a lot of records being broken. That has also been an interesting topic of discussion, where it seems like with Cody winning back-to-back and also just winning 2 Royal Rumbles at all is a pretty huge deal. And for that to happen, you got to be up in the upper echelon. A Hulk Hogan, a Shawn Michaels, a Steve Austin. Those guys are arguably all potential Mount Rushmore guys. So Cody Rhodes is really, really trying to cement his place now. The other part of it, let's get to the Raw side of it. Unfortunately, first of all, I want to say, in regards to injury, Kevin Owens worked the Logan Paul match with a fractured foot, so damn, he's tough. But additionally, let's get to the big story. Not that Kevin Owens hurt isn't a big story, but the biggest story. CM Punk takes the Future Shock DDT from Drew McIntyre. immediately starts kind of clutching his arm. He talks to a referee. It's not necessarily Rumble 2014 where he's just sitting in a corner for 30 minutes and waiting for his time for Kane to remove him, or corporate Kane rather, but he props to Punk. He ends the match with Cody, finishes the match. He also comes out and cuts a promo, a very heartfelt and a very emotional promo, and then Drew McIntyre comes out and McIntyre hits his arm and steps on it, but Punk, did some forearms with his arm. He tore his tricep, and I believe it might have been the tricep that he tore in AEW, but he did look like he was working with it. It's not to say that it didn't hurt or that it was a smart idea, but he toughed it out. And, he also mentioned in his promo, CM Punk, that, WrestleMania this year is probably not in the cards, maybe next year. So that might lead me to believe that Chicago is a front runner for WrestleMania next year, which is pretty wild to think. But additionally, Punk just being injured and doing that and still working. And he mentioned how he tried the UFC because it scared him. And I always gave him a lot of credit for that because, CM Punk left WWE and it was like, wow, I can't believe you left. You were on top. You were getting these big, why would you ever leave? You're so stupid. We were all there. We all heard the critiques and the criticisms. Maybe not from Josh Cross, biggest CM Punk fan of all time. But, he goes and out of the blue goes, I'm gonna go fight MMA. And not just MMA. He had a huge fight at a UFC show. And he tapped out in 2 minutes. And then he had another one, and it also didn't work in his favor. And people dunked on him. People laughed at him. People made memes. I made memes. But you know what I really felt deep down, and I still feel now, that a lot of people just aren't doing? I gave him so much credit for just trying MMA because, to me, it wasn't his fault that he went immediately to the UFC. Why would Dana White not want to have a huge name like CM Punk, who's stepping out of the, quote, fake world and jump into a real sport in the octagon, one of the most real, dangerous, intense sports you could ever perform in, mixed martial arts, and he does it. Why would you not want to put him on a UFC card? Why would you want him to train and maybe he'll do an undercard for Bellator, or he can do a UFC fight night? No, they wanted to put him on the main card, regardless of experience or whatever. And he went against Mickey Gall and he lost. But he did it. I don't know how many other guys would go, you know what, I'm going to stop doing this predetermined athletic acting competition, which, by the way, I love. Don't act as if I'm taking a dump on pro wrestling. Let's be real here. It's a wrestling podcast. And go to the UFC. Start MMA, but go directly to the UFC and fight somebody who's on the up and up in the UFC. I don't think a lot of guys would take that chance, especially knowing that they might not make it out of there unscathed. And Punk didn't leave unscathed. In fact, he came back and lost again. And people dunked on him, people made fun of him. But I gave him a lot of respect for trying. And I know that, James Harrison, I don't want a participation trophy for my kid. But if I'm going to give a participation trophy to anybody in this world, it's going to be to CM Punk because he tried MMA at the highest level with bare minimum training for someone who could train for a UFC match. And now he's back with wrestling. And he went to AEW. And he had injuries. And he had politics. And it didn't work. He goes back to WWE. Professional working environment. A lot of people were hesitant about him going there. Shows he's grown. Shows he'll be able to work through it and try to make money. I'm here to make money, not make friends. And unfortunately, he gets hurt. Cuts a great promo, though, and Drew McIntyre, to his credit, leans into it finally as a heel. He said, your injury, I got to tell you, I was praying for it, and it came true. And attacked Punk and looked like a dastardly heel and ended Raw as a heel. And I'm here for Drew McIntyre as a heel. CM Punk is not in the cards for WrestleMania. Seth Rollins was so close to not being a part of WrestleMania. You have to lean on your Drew McIntyres and maybe now your Braun Breakers and your Gunthers and your Jey Usos. Because Cody is probably going to go against Roman. Especially now. Like, they're going to start running thin if they get any more injuries here. For the WrestleMania card to really be something strong. I thought maybe you could call an audible for Steve Austin versus CM Punk if Rollins couldn't go. And now, lo and behold, Punk can't go, so you're not going to call Austin at all. What, you're going to have The Rock show up and he wants to do something with the head of the table, but instead Steve Austin comes out and we get Rock Austin 4? Hey, I wouldn't be mad at it. So I don't know. I don't know what happens with Mania. It's February 2nd. I'm here for Gunther taking the title. I'm here for Rollins maybe going against Drew and Drew getting a crowning achievement maybe as a heel. I do like a little bit that Seth Rollins, at least for a week, because again, I don't know what happens tonight on SmackDown. That's the benefit and curse of the Juice Box, is that it airs on Friday, so I can't really refer to or reference what happens on SmackDown and review it because I like having the show come out then so it can recap Raw and Dynamite, two of the flagships of wrestling right now. But next week we can discuss it. And to me, I just think, Seth Rollins came out because Cody was going to say, hey, I'm probably going to go against Roman, because he pointed at Roman at the end of Royal Rumble. He pointed right at him. Him and Paul Heyman are in the booth, the suite. And he's like, look, it's me. I want you. This is it. I'm finishing the story, and all that. And I'm here for it. And on Raw, Seth Rollins, who's hurt, is now politicking for Cody to switch and go against him. To me, that just sounds, in kayfabe at least, that Seth Rollins is deathly afraid of Gunther. So we'll see what happens tonight on SmackDown. Hopefully Roman comes out, and I know Cody's going to be there. Maybe they make it official. Maybe we see The Rock. I don't know. You have to tune in to find out. But I'm looking forward to it. Just quickly like to touch on the AEW at all, and then I would like to answer a couple Ask Juice questions that Wrestling Nation threw at me, which will be fun, and then we'll head on out of here. I'll give you a couple more news items as we get closer as well. So, just quick notes from AEW. Wardlow took an incredible move from Commander to his throat, somehow shook it off, and then hit a powerbomb, which potentially, happened under a torn meniscus. We're not really sure with what Wardlow happened there, but or what happened with Wardlow. I got caught up because I know that Dashik also called Wardlow Mr. Wardlow, which I thought was fantastic. If it was a slip up, great, but it was Mr. Mayhem Wardlow, so I thought that was hilarious. But other than that, I thought Deonna Purrazzo looked good again in her match, and I think her and Toni Storm are going to have a great match. I really enjoyed the pre-tape promo between Big Bill, Ricky Starks, Darby Allin, and Sting. They have a tag title match next, and that's the point of me referring to AEW this week. There was not a lot of great stuff on AEW this week, although I did enjoy Swerve Strickland versus Rob Van Dam. That was pretty badass. But next week, and I will get to it here in a second. See if I can find it here. But next week is supposed to be crazy. So next week on AEW Dynamite, you ready for this? We got Starks and Big Bill defending the World Tag Titles against Sting and Darby Allin. I would wager that Sting and Darby Allin win the match and win the titles. CMLL versus the Blackpool Combat Club in a trios match, which should be insane. Jericho faces Takeshita. Hangman versus Swerve. Winner gets a shot at the AEW World Title at Revolution. I'm assuming there's a schmoz and we get a triple threat at the pay-per-view. And then last but certainly not least, Tony Khan is going to make a big announcement next week. Whether that's something with Mercedes Moné, whether that's something with Kazuchika Okada, I have no idea. but I would wager it's either or both, or an announcement for a future episode of Dynamite potentially taking place in Boston, where Mercedes Moné is from. Maybe it's a signing of Kazuchika Okada, and he's going to wrestle at Revolution. I have no idea, but there's a lot to be, done there. I don't know. Tony Khan does these announcements quite frequently, yet I'm hooked. I'm hooked, line and sinker. I'm here for it. I don't care. It could be something crazy. I'm here for the reactions. I'm here for the speculation, and I'm here for the results. So we'll see what's going to happen next week on Dynamite. Like I said, this week was really kind of, lack of a better term, dull episode of Dynamite. It kind of just progressed us to the next week, which I'm fine with, because next week is going to look to be a great show. So fine, that's great. I really can't hate on them for wanting to do that. So let's get into some Ask Juice real quick. Before we do that, I want to mention. Actually, no, we'll do that at the end. We'll close up shop with that. But Ask Juice, now that the Super Bowl is set, if you had to set up a Chiefs versus 49ers wrestling match for the game, what's the match? Which wrestler best represents each team and who's winning? I mean, I think this match is signed, sealed, and delivered with one answer. First of all, next week I will give a full Super Bowl prediction. I'm not sure if I gave a Super Bowl prediction last year. I have to go through the archives. But I think I picked Chiefs 35, Eagles 31. And I was close. Chiefs won 38-35. So we'll see what happens next week with the predictions for the Super Bowl. But it will not be a full Super Bowl predictions episode, I assure you. But to me, I think it's a no-brainer. I think you have George Kittle, tight end for the San Francisco 49ers, huge wrestling fan. He's purchased shirts off of Wrestling for Sale, a prominent wrestling T-shirt guy based in the California area. So he's a huge wrestling fan. He would absolutely represent the 49ers. And then it's clear as day, the other tight end, Travis Kelce, would represent the Chiefs in a Super Bowl pro wrestling match. Tight end versus tight end. They're the biggest guys, arguably, with a lot of athleticism. Kelce could have Taylor Swift as the valet. That would bring a lot of eyes to the match. I think George Kittle would come out with, a luchador mask. He might come out with Penta. I just think it would be a great wrestling match. Wrestling and football kind of go hand in hand in certain ways. So I really think that would be really intriguing to see. So that's a great question. I think it's pretty simple. The tight ends are the most charismatic. They're the biggest and the most athletic for that position. And I just think they would have killer promos. And, I mean, look, you want George Kittle talking trash about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce talking about how Kittle can never win a Super Bowl even though he's on this amazing team. There's a lot to be done there. I think it'd be really interesting to go. And then last but certainly not least, Josh Cross, how satisfied would you be if the build for Rock Roman is The Rock interfering on Cody's behalf at 40, Mania 40, to ensure Cody wins the title off of Roman? This interference sets up Rock Roman at 41. Also, does Cody need The Rock to interfere on his behalf? And if Rock does, is it a slap in the face to Cody, who should probably go over Roman clean? Ask Juice. I don't know why you were thinking that Cody has to beat Roman quote unquote clean. I think he just has to beat him clean in the sense of 1, 2, 3, center of the ring. The title changes hands, not by DQ or whatever, because Roman Reigns has pinned people legitimately to win the match. It wasn't by DQ or whatever, but it was with interference 80 to 85% of the time. Again, WrestleMania 39, Solo Sikoa. Cody Rhodes hits 2 crossroads. He's going to hit the third one. Paul Heyman jumps up on one side of the apron, the other side of the ring when the ref is distracted. The incompetence of referees, like I mentioned earlier. And Solo Sikoa hits him with the Samoan Spike. Give me a similar scenario this year, whether The Rock's already out there or you hear The Rock's music or whatever. Maybe The Rock just shows up through the crowd. Whatever you do, he's the guy to negate Solo and the interference of the bloodline, even though he's technically the bloodline. And that's how you get Cody to eventually get Roman one-on-one. Like, without the interference, Rock is there to help. He's the Chuck Norris of Survivor Series 94. He's the enforcer, not Arn Anderson. And Cody gets the win. And I think if that happens, you automatically, the next night you can do the exact same thing that Cena and Rock did after Mania 27. You set up a match for Mania 41. The match is already set. The Rock doesn't have to, be on TV every week for that to happen, but throughout the year, he can kind of do things. You could probably get away with a tag match at a SummerSlam. You can do those things to set things in motion for 41. And knowing it ahead of time makes you, a little bit more safe with your decision making, and you want to be protective of certain things. And I just think it's a solid idea to set it up ahead of time, especially because The Rock has been so vague. He's like, oh, when we're talking about the match, I don't know, we might have the match. We want to make sure it's a WrestleMania, and we want to make sure it's the biggest of, all time. And it's like, okay, why? We know this storyline literally is made for you, Rock. 3 years now, you could have come and been like, I'm the head of the table. It's my bloodline. I'm the most successful out of this bloodline. You are now the current success of this family. But you have to remember how this family got to the prominence that it did. And The Rock has not been able to do this wrestling thing and the storyline and wrestle for a couple years now. Now it potentially is right there. And Punk is injured. He won't be there. Rollins is injured and probably will still wrestle. Lesnar's not going to be there. I don't think Cena's going to be there unless he shows up at Elimination Chamber. So your options are becoming very thin at what specifically you want to promote ahead of time for a huge show, whether it's at 40 or 41. So you want to pull out all the stops at 40 for sure, because this is the first TKO WWE WrestleMania, the first WrestleMania truly booked by Triple H and the regime. And then if you want to set up something for 41, you do it. I think that's a very easy way to do it. I just I don't think it's a slap in the face to Cody. I think Cody would say, hey, look, thanks, Rock. Thanks, Dwayne. Because The Rock is a part of a family in wrestling. And what is the beginning of Cody's theme song? Is there, more than one royal family? It's just very easy for me to set it up. And I think they should pull the trigger. I don't know whether they do it or not, but it's there. It's so close. We're so close to getting The Rock in a one-on-one match with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I just don't know if it'll happen at WrestleMania 40 or 41 or never. But be that as it may. Interestingly, though, so CM Punk saying, hey, there's always next year. Is WrestleMania 41 in Chicago? I don't know. We don't know where WrestleMania 41 is going to take place. Normally they announce it before WrestleMania of this year. I know after the COVID WrestleMania, they announced 36, 30, or they announced 37, 38, and 39 ahead of time. And I know in 2022, they announced that Mania 40 would be in Philly. So I think now they're back on the schedule of right before WrestleMania, they'll do the year in advance because they did it a year and change in advance. It was like July of 2022 where they announced Mania 40 because it was a bigger deal and they already had 39 in place. So now I think before 40, you're going to see the announcement for 41. To me, and this is not in any particular order, at least for these next 3 years, I think over the next 5 years, you could see any of these. I think you could see, now I'm putting Chicago in play because of CM Punk. Whether that's an audible or whatever, I think Soldier Field, it's right there. Chicago, London, which I don't think will be next year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years down the line, which it'd be a huge WrestleMania. It might be the biggest WrestleMania of all time if they go to London. Sorry, Tony Khan, but All In at Wembley will not touch WrestleMania in London. So Chicago, London, Minneapolis, which has been rumored for years, and they have an incredible spaceship of a stadium, but you're really risking the weather, and now no Brock Lesnar. Do you even want to go up to Minneapolis for all that trouble for nothing? Las Vegas, who's going to host the Super Bowl this year. I almost would say Vegas is a lock for Mania 41 unless it's Chicago. And then the other one, the other city that won't come into play until 2027, I believe, is Nashville, because they're revamping and doing Nissan Stadium in a new way with a retractable roof. And it's going to be a massive, another spaceship stadium. I say spaceship referring to the Jerry Jones, Jerry World Dallas Cowboys Stadium that hosted 32 and 38. The WrestleMania's the first WrestleMania I ever went to, WrestleMania 32 in 2016, which, what a trip that was. But, so I think it's definitely in play, Nashville, once 2027 and the new stadium comes in. They had SummerSlam at Nissan Stadium, and you get a newer stadium, you could put WrestleMania there. I think that would be fantastic to have WrestleMania and party on Broadway in Nashville. Whew. So Nashville, Chicago, London, Minneapolis, and Vegas over the next 5 years. I'd look to see any of those potential spots for WrestleMania. So we'll see. We'll see where the chips fall. But like I said, just a quick programming note. Triple Threat Theater 4 will be coming before WrestleMania. I can guarantee you that. We'll definitely have an Elimination Chamber prediction show in a couple of weeks. Of course, the WrestleMania prediction show, we'll get into that in a couple of months. I can tell you for a fact, later on this month, there will be an episode of the SIP series, but it has been recorded and it will be coming out this month at some point. And when I decide to promote it, I will. But I will leave it at that. You guys can make guesses on who it is. Don't know if you'll get it, but looking forward to it. It was a nice little sit down I had with someone. So the SIP series, not going to get too much into it. I just like having the surprise factor, so maybe we'll dive into it a little bit more next week in the Juice Box. But SIP series episode coming this month. Triple Threat Theater coming before Mania. I got a lot of plans for WrestleMania week and weekend. So again, once we get closer, I will dive into that and kind of lay it out. But this is the best time of year to be a wrestling fan. It's road to WrestleMania time. We just had the Royal Rumble, always a great show. And look, we got Elimination Chamber coming in a couple weeks. The following week, we got Sting's retirement at AEW Revolution. And then literally like a month and 5 days later a month and like 3 to 4 days later is WrestleMania. So we are rapidly approaching a lot of great stuff here. Within about a month, we'll have 3 huge shows in a month and a week span with Revolution, Elimination Chamber, and WrestleMania. So stay tuned to the Juice Box as always. Hope you guys listened to this whole thing. Me just rambling. I know it's tough without the Eisenbergs and Donnies and LeBars and Josh Crosses and the SIP series with whoever may be on here. But I really appreciate the listening to this show if you guys do. And as always, like I said, you can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, juicysteen.podbean.com if you'd like to listen to this on Podbean, and now on Spotify. So another outlet for you guys to get the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet and also on Twitter or X at Juicy Steen, where I always am mixing it up on there, talking wrestling. So, wow. 58 minutes flies by, as always. Hope you guys enjoyed this past week, and looking forward to just some more discussion next week. Hopefully less injuries, less controversy next week, and more just intrigue as we move forward to Elimination Chambers. So hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode of the Juice Box. I'm Juice Springsteen. I will see you guys next week for another exciting edition of the Juice Box. That was the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.